My boyfriend bought me my dream car for Christmas, and the most common question that I get asked is, how did we meet? So I'm gonna give y'all a lowdown on me, him, how we met, our first date. We met last summer on a dating app called The League. Basically, it's like a more professional version of like Match or Hinge or Bumble. You actually have to connect your LinkedIn to the app, and then your profile also has to be approved before you can even see matches. So everyone there is like pretty much career oriented. We were both working in tech at the time. He still works in tech. He has a director position at a really good tech company. For our first date, we went to Speakeasy for some drinks, and then we went to this nice Italian restaurant after. My first impression of him was like he was tall, handsome, and kind of muscular. Because like if you've seen any of my videos about dating, my criteria for dating is not necessarily like looking for the hottest guy. I made it a point to only date millionaires, and I was looking to see who I got along with the most, who I had the most chemistry with. I thought he seemed like a pretty good guy so far. Like, you know, he was opening all the doors, pulling out my seats, being very gentlemanly. I love a gentlemanly man. We had a lot of great conversation. We took a Waymo from the Speakeasy to this nice Italian restaurant. He said it was one of the best in the city. The server came over and asked for our drinks, and then he asked me if I wanted wine and what kind of wine I like. And then the server brought some samples of wine over, and then he bought a bottle of wine of whatever wine I chose. We did like family style sharing. I usually like to do that even when I go out with my girlfriends. I like to try different things. And he likes that as well, which I feel like that's one of the things, as silly as it sounds, like that's one of the things that I was looking for. I like when we can share stuff. You know, I don't want any like only child energy. That's like not the vibe. Oh, he was really like focused on me and like, oh, what kind of foods do you like? Do you think this sounds good? Do you want that? You know, really kind of like catering to me. And anyone that knows me knows like I'm a huge dessert person. And so when they were reading off the desserts and like my eyes were getting all big probably, and they also have chocolate truffles. And so we ordered 2 desserts, and then they had like 4 or 5 different truffles. And I told him, or asked him, well, which one should we try? And he said, well, there's so many. Should we just get one of each? And I was like, yeah. But it's just like the small gestures that I really appreciate. Like even when the food came and then he was like serving food on my plate. I remember he told me that he had this big long trip planned because he traveled at the time. He was traveling quite frequently for work. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever, because I had enough experience with dating these career guys. Like some of them, they travel a lot. And for some of these guys, if they're not really interested in you, like they're not going to message you in between then. They're not going to really check in. So when I heard that he was going on like, I want to say it was like a 5-week trip, I was like, okay, well, let's see if I ever hear from this guy again. Before he left for the trip, we had only gone on 1 date, but he had already planned the next date for when he returned, and I was like, okay, that's kind of nice. The one thing I will say about our first date is I don't do like kisses on first dates, because I was going on like a million first dates. If I kissed everyone, that's just gross. So most guys will ask, can I kiss you? But at the end of the date, like before he called me an Uber and he was walking me over to the Uber, he kissed me. And so that was the one thing that I was like, almost about to cut him off, because I didn't like that. Also, another thing, when we matched at that time, I was just unmatching with guys that were suggesting drink dates. And so when we were talking, we had only exchanged a couple messages, and I asked him what some of his favorite restaurants were in town. He'd thrown out a restaurant and a bar that I also liked, and I told him, oh, that sounds like the perfect date, because it's like this restaurant, Mediterranean food, Abba, and then a bar called Equipment Room, which is like a Japanese vinyl speakeasy. And I told him, like, that sounds like the perfect date. And so he was like, oh yeah, like, so let's go get drinks at, you know, Equipment Room and see where the night takes us. And I was like that close to like cutting him off, because I was like, you just suggested the perfect date. Like, And he later told me that it was because he had seen that the bar was free for reservation, but the restaurant was not. So in his head, he was thinking maybe we would just pop in and see if we could get a table. It's funny because after we made things official, after like I think it was our third or fourth date, I began to show him behind the curtain of my dating style. I told him all my standards and all the, I guess, kind of tests that I would put these guys through. I told him, yeah, like if a guy just suggests drinks, like I'd unmatch him. And it was actually the week prior to me matching with him that I decided to give these men a chance and say, oh, I only drink with dinner, or if they suggested coffee or tea or whatever, I'd be like, oh, I only drink coffee when I'm working. I told him that the restaurant question was also quite intentional, because if you don't like the same restaurants as another person, if I like to eat at nice restaurants and you don't, then that's an indicator of the larger picture. Like maybe you don't like eating at nice restaurants because you're not in the tax bracket to be enjoying those places frequently, or maybe our taste in food is just not the same. And also when I told him like one of my love languages is receiving gifts, he was like, oh, I love giving gifts. And I made him I went on myregistry.com and I started putting a bunch of stuff on my wish list. This was also after he had already taken me shopping, after we had made things official. Like he bought me 2 new pairs of red bottoms. I told him like there were guys that I went on dates with that they would give me terrible gifts, and I cut things off with the guy because I don't want to get shitty gifts. I made my wish list, and on my wish list was a pink G-Wagon. And so when Christmas rolled around, he asked me what I want for my Christmas gift, and I asked him how big it could be. And then I said something along the lines of like, oh, I think Sasha, my dog, would appreciate, a new ride. And I had kind of already made some hints about it. And then about a week later, he found the G-Wagon that he was going to get me. And then a week after that, he found the person that was going to wrap it. And I will also say that there are a couple reasons why a man may not want to spend money on you. Number one, he doesn't have it like that. If that man does not have the disposable income to be spending his money willy-nilly on you, it's just out of the picture. If he does have money like that, but he doesn't want to spend it on you, then the second reason would be he doesn't like you. If that man has the means to, and he knows that this is going to make you happy and he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't like you. The third reason would be that he just doesn't see a future with you like that. If the man has money, if he likes you, he knows it would make you happy, and he's still not doing it, is because he doesn't see himself long-term in the future with you. Because a man that sees a long-term future with you, he's going to invest his money and time. He's going to put his money where his mouth is. My boyfriend and I were both aligned in what we were looking for. We both wanted a long-term relationship that led to marriage. I told him I didn't want to have kids, and at the time he was thinking like, oh, I've gone either way, like maybe I'll have a kid, maybe I won't. He has 2 sons. Something I also forgot to mention, we are in an age gap, like 17-year age gap. I'm 30, he's 47. He has 2 teenage sons that live out of state with the mom. But I told him, I'm not going to have kids. I already got my tubes removed. I do not want to have kids. I want to live a child-free life. So we both knew that we were on the same page with that. And then the fourth reason, if a man doesn't want to spend that money on you, is broke mentality. For how many millionaires I've met, a lot of them come from nothing, like not much. Some of these men grew up impoverished and have grown up knowing the struggle. And I feel like those men, I've seen this mentality more so often than men who grow up in a nurturing and like middle to upper class household. The men that grow up impoverished, it's difficult for them. They've had to really struggle to make it. They sometimes struggle with having a broke mentality. This means no matter how much money they make, they will still subconsciously view themselves as broke, and maybe viewing themselves as being one step away from being impoverished again. There's no amount of money that can ever cure that because it's an internal job. And those men are so miserable to be around. They will always be counting their pennies. They will always be disappointed with where they're at. I like to post my relationship online to show other women what is out there for them, that there are good men out there. My boyfriend is handsome, fit, charismatic, funny. To me, he is the whole package. And in his eyes, he sees me as the whole package. When you're dating, if you're doing this in person or on the dating apps, you need to vet, have a roster of men until one of those men proves that he is the one. You need to have high standards and stick by them and never lose hope. You will find that man. Let me know if you have any other dating questions.